Evening, ladies and gentlemen, the board is returning from a brief recess. The next item on our agenda, we have committee interviews for the Steamship Authority Port Council. And the first individual on our list, to get past all these cover sheets. Robert Young.
Oh. Mine's out of order.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, how do you want to go along with this interview process? Do you want me to make a brief statement?
Introduce yourself and explain why you'd like to be a member of the Port Council.
Bob Young, Precinct 5. I guess right off the top, I'd like to say I'd like to give back a little bit. I've been an employee there for a long time, and I'll make a brief statement and then entertain some questions. As both a former employee of the Authority and a lifelong resident of Falmouth, I believe I have a unique perspective on the ferry boat operation in our town, and would like to represent Falmouth on the Authority's Port Council. With the establishment of the Ports Council in 2002, the enabling legislation gave those representatives the power to review the annual budget of the Steamship Authority and advise the town's authority member, Ms. Norton, concerning activity in any port community. I'm very familiar with the Authority's annual budget and will benefit from my past experience with it. I've worked on it for many, many years. Additionally, with the proposed changes at the Woods Hole Port and the new off-site parking lot and the new freight vessel replacement, three big things this town has, I will be available to work with our Assistant Governor. And I'd like to work with her, advise her, and discuss the issues. I feel I'm very familiar with the Steamship Authority operation, and I could lend a lot and give a lot back to the town. That's my statement, Mr.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. Jones?
I'll begin. I'd like to thank you for applying for this. I hope that we can make the interview as painless as possible, because I want to make sure that everyone who applies for these, we're very, very grateful. We have 3 excellent candidates for this position, so there are going to be 2 people who I would love to appoint and are not going to be able to get appointed because we can only appoint 1 person to it. Do you see any way that your past employment with there is going to be a hindrance to your performing the job?
No, I don't. Not at all. I think it would be an asset.
My next question, I'm not sure I really want to ask because play isn't fair, but if you weren't in the running, which of the other 2 would you recommend we choose?
I was told yesterday that I was the only one running. Now I found out that there are 2 others. I don't know who the other are.
Okay. Then I won't ask that question. Let them go. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy?
I'm very familiar with this candidate, having been a precinct captain in Precinct 5 for some years. But I do want to elaborate a little bit on a potential conflict, having worked at the Authority for many years. In other words, our rep typically takes direction from the Board of Selectmen, and as well as the folks in the community of Falmouth. For many years, you took direction from the folks who were actually your employers at the Steamship Authority. Are you going to have a problem transitioning to take direction from the town and trying to help us to achieve our goals, which the Falmouth Board of Selectmen, who represent the community?
Well, as I said in my opening statement, I would like to represent Falmouth on the Authority's Board, so I would definitely take my direction from not only the selectmen, but from the residents of the town.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yes, Bob, you mentioned that one of the prime responsibilities of the council is the budget. And I know the budget doesn't take all year to review, I mean, in terms of proposed budgets. But what activity do you think that the Port Council would have regarding the continued review of the budget as the projects move forward and the expenses and the revenues move forward? Is it kind of a general oversight of the budget during the course of a year, or is it strictly related to a proposed budget for the following year?
Well, there's 2 budgets. You have your operating budget, which I'm familiar with. You have your capital budget, which is for your larger projects. And the authority is a very complex operation, and they draw their revenues from many sources. And we could review those particular areas in the operating budget, such as parking. There could be a little room for movement there. I know we have the high school, and there's going to be a nice, large parking lot built out of town. We could look at those rates on the income side, which could help the authority operation. That parking lot out of town is going to be a real crown jewel, and it's going to be a nice step for the authority with the shuttle buses going right up and down the highway and avoid buses coming into town. It will free up that Gifford Street property so we don't have watershed issues over there. As far as the capital goes, I just read recently where the authorities had their capital approved, I think by the House, but not signed by the governor, to increase the capital budget another up to $100 million, I believe. So that would take care of some of those larger projects. That's kind of on the state side, but that would free up quite a bit of money for these larger projects, including the new freight ferry.
And a follow-up question. In addition to the budget, what other type of activities does the council get involved in terms of review or recommendations to the board?
The legislation says
Anything.
activity that goes in the port, and that you can advise the governor. So any type of activity in the port itself.
So can you talk about what some of those might be? That since you have been an employee and you've been in Falmouth a long time, so you know what happens in the port of Falmouth. Do you have any other ideas about what kinds of activities that the council could get involved in that would be helpful to the?
One of them right now, and I don't know, I know there's a working group working with management right now. They've made some significant progress on the new terminal in Woods Hole. That's kind of a two-pronged approach. They want 3 slips. We have 2 operating slips now. There's a 3rd slip that's really not an operating slip. Slip 3 is not used that much. The Port Council could talk over that a little bit. I think that one's pretty set. Placement of the new terminal. I know the Woods Hole people have a lot of say or input on that, whether it goes to the left or the right or the size of it. You could have a little bit of an input on that area too. That's the big thing for our port right now, are those 2 major changes, the slips and the terminal location.
And my third question is, what kind of public outreach might the Port Council do to get the ideas and suggestions from the people who live here?
Go to the coffee shops,
Okay.
talk to people in the post office, at the golf course. I run into people all the time that have issues about the Steamship Authority, and that would be the outreach I would think.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Moffett?
I'm thinking about New Bedford and how it can help us in Falmouth. And I'm thinking about the freight that needs to be moved. And what's your opinion, or do you think that New Bedford should have more importance as far as the freight being shipped?
There's so many things that go into that, to answer that question, the dynamics. First of all, the reality of the situation is that Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket each have 35% of the vote to make that decision. So there's 70%. The good side of that is that if there is a deficit, Falmouth only has to pay 10% of that deficit. We get 10% of that vote. So you would have to get 3 mainland ports and the island port to agree to have some significant running of freight vessels out of New Bedford. I don't see that happening right now. The authority...
Is there any way you can explain why that's gone on so long?
Well, one of the reasons is the truckers don't want to give up their trucks for a long period of time. It's a short trip from Woods Hole to the Vineyard, 45 minutes. They're over and back. From New Bedford, it might be a 2-hour ride, and then the economics of the cost of that trip, it could be twice as much. So you're losing a truck for almost a whole day, and it costs you twice as much than driving over the bridge and coming to Woods Hole and spending just a little bit of gas. It would be nice if we could get maybe in the mornings 1 freight trip from the island to New Bedford with the trash or the hazardous, that type of thing. Maybe that could be a first step. Maybe we could get the islands to agree to something like that as a phase-in where it wouldn't cost the authority too much.
How many years are we on this discussion with the islands?
Well, if you read the Enterprise 35 years ago today, you'll find it in there.
Okay.
So it's been going on for a long time. New Bedford did run up until 1959, but the deficits became so large, and the port communities were paying, and we had a third then. We had a 33% vote. That in 1960 they stopped New Bedford, and then it became the Woods Hole, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket Steamship Authority.
Thank you.
So economics is a big part of that answer.
Anyone else? Thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
consideration.
Thank you.
Next applicant is Robert Munier.
Good evening.
Good evening. Could you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about why you'd like to be on the Port
Sure.
Council.
My name is Rob Munier. I live at 200 Moreland Road. I've been in Falmouth for 4 years. I am a ocean engineer by training. Professionally, I am at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, where I'm a member of the executive team, and I am the vice president for marine operations and facilities. I'm interested in the position because I'm interested in getting to participate in my community. I think I have about 38 years of experience in marine activities. At Woods Hole, I am responsible for the waterfront. I'm also responsible for our ship operations, so I have a keen understanding of the operations, maintenance, long-term planning, operating budgets for our facilities, and obviously we're a neighbor of the Steamship Authority, and so it's our two operations have some similarities in terms of scope. My portion of responsibility at Woods Hole is about a quarter of the business. We're a $200 million a year business, so my portion from a marine operations perspective is about $50 million. And then prior to coming to Woods Hole, I was at the Tyco Telecommunications business, which is an undersea telecom supplier, and we operated a fleet of ships and had a variety of waterfront facilities all over the world. And so I come to the research world from the commercial world, but with similar types of responsibility.
Questions?
Again, thank you very much for applying for this position. We'll have two people who will be disappointed. My one question for you is, have you had a chance to go to either Port Council or the Steamship Authority meetings?
No, I haven't. I have visited with the Steamship Authority to discuss their new project on several occasions to try and understand what the plans were and stay in touch with that project because they're our neighbor and we want to be sure that we can cooperate on that.
Mr. Murphy?
Bearing the fact that Falmouth only has 10% of the vote, and the islands have the vast majority, 70% of the vote, it's important to be able to persuade people to your point of view. Can you give me some areas where you've been able to use your sense of persuasion?
Yeah, I think I could give an example or two. When I was here in January, I gave an example. I'll give it again because I think it's relevant, and that was I serve on a board that is a management labor board, undersea cable owners and fishermen in Oregon, and it's a non-voting position, and I'm the technical advisor to that committee. So the cable owners and the fishermen each have a vote, and I'm a non-voting advisor. And there have been numerous occasions where my ability to assess a situation has been able to influence the outcome that was ultimately agreed, even though I'm a non-voting member.
Great, thank you.
I would also, just one thing to add, and that is that I have served on numerous advisory committees where you're an advisor, but you aren't a voter, so you are advising to a board of some fashion. Including the Broward County Marine Advisory Board, where we advised the Broward County Commission about how to spend monies in the marine area and all the waterfront facilities. I have just was appointed to the Technical Advisory Committee for the Japanese Marine Engineering, Science, and Technology Group, which is a Woods Hole-like entity in Japan to advise on all of their marine assets, including their waterfront facilities and their floating assets. So it puts you in a role where you advise, you can provide your expertise and hope to influence a positive outcome.
How many hours are in the day for you?
I'm a busy person, but I like it that way. That's my objective. And So I'm more than prepared to put the time in to do this. You know, as an executive, you have to be able to come in, look at information, make an assessment, and then make a reasoned judgment about it in reasonably quick order, and that's how I would approach this role as well. I'd educate myself, and then listen, and then try to provide some advice and judgment.
I would like for you to talk to me about New Bedford. And I don't know if you have any difference of opinion from our previous applicant, but I'm really interested in what New Bedford can do to help Falmouth.
So I'm going to give you an unsatisfactory answer to that. And the reason I am is because I don't have the information to make give you an informed answer. In other words, it's easy to have a quick opinion about something. But I would approach it like an engineer, that you want to trade off the pros and cons of things. And I haven't studied that particular problem well enough to say that my strong opinion is one or the other. And I would agree with the previous speaker about the notion that there's the economic side, there's the impact side, and all of those things are trade-offs that have to be made. So I hate to give you an unsatisfying answer that I don't have an opinion to give you on that, but maybe a year from now, if I've sat on this Port Council, I would have more of an educated answer to give you.
Okay. And my second question is, what's your opinion of thinking about the new terminal in Woods Hole? Do you like the plans as you see them? Do you agree with it being 2 or 3 stories high? I mean, I understand the third boat, but it's...
Well, I understand it. It's the current plan is not 3 stories high anymore,
Okay.
that there's been some modifications to address some of the input from the community, and I think everybody is interested in having the most efficient but the least intrusive change. Most of my discussions thus far with the Port Authority, with the Steamship Authority, have been about, you know, the pier, the third pier that happens to be adjacent to our waterfront, and what potential impacts that might have, and the assessment that we've made by talking together and sharing drawings and looking at how the ships might need to modify their approach. I think we've reached a reasonable approach that, you know, was the least amount of impact. But over the long term, infrastructure like the port facilities in Woods Hole have to be kept current and made efficient. So I'm not against projects in general. I'm for doing a very thorough study to try to make sure that we're having the best outcome, recognizing that there's a variety of stakeholders and not everybody's always happy with the outcome, but usually you can find a solution that serves everybody's needs.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah. I recall when you were here in January, asking you that question, how you persuade others to your point of view, so I won't ask you that tonight. But there was anyway. So I guess my first question would be, what other activities other than the budget would you see the Port Council being engaged in?
Well, my reading of what the Port Council's mission was, that's highlighted, that's first, and then second is what I would say is everything else. In other words, there's an opportunity to weigh in on issues that are in front of the Board of Governors, and that you would assess them and make recommendations. So I didn't see the way that the statute reads, that it's limited to just the budget. That certainly was front and center. And I think I can contribute to the budget part, but I also think that I have just a strong technical and analytical ability to look at the other problems that would confront, you know, the Steamship Authority.
And I guess my second question is really public outreach. Particularly, I think the public oftentimes doesn't pay too much attention to what happens to the Steamship Authority until they want to change something, like add a building or take a building down or change the parking or something like that. But how do you see even the Port Council's role might be in terms of engaging the public in some feedback to the not only to the Port Council, but to the steamship itself, in terms of its operations and how it's impacting the community?
Well, I mean, I guess if I was in the role, I would like to become sort of associated with Steamship Authority and Falmouth's representation. And, for example, there's a community meeting on Wednesday night, and I would think in Woods Hole that I would think that somebody has as the Falmouth representative, would participate in that, become, people would recognize that you're a part of that sort of process and be open to having those types of dialogues and communications. So I'd see that attendance at those types of things would be very valuable.
Good, thank you.
Sure.
All set?
All set.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And last on the list tonight, Joseph Drollet.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Dutch Drollet, 39 Mill Pond Way, Precinct 4. I'm here to be a candidate for the Steamship Authority Council. I've been traveling the boat since early 80s. I remember the Nashon, Uncatina, Eureka. I remember them all. I've seen Homeland Security come in, change. I've seen the parking lot, the old Falmouth Ice Arena, change. I also noticed driving down the road, there's grooves in the road for all the trucks that come up and down that road, Woods Hole Road. The traffic is unbearable sometimes. Boats come and go every hour and 15 minutes. And in the summer, at 5 o'clock, when the Falmouth hospital lights are backed up all the way. Budgets, I'm familiar with budgets. I own a business, 3 of them. I sit on the finance committee in this town. And I know she's going to ask me about New Bedford. So I'll answer that before you have the chance to ask the question.
Then you get another one.
That's fine. I agree, something should go out of New Bedford, but you have to understand Woods Hole is not an easy place to maneuver a ship in, or I believe they go through Robinson's Hole and Quick's Hole, one of the two. The tides are bad through those areas, because I own a boat, I know. And then you got the open sea on the other side in Buzzards Bay. It can be done, but not every day. How could I persuade somebody? I'd get the mission from you people first. I'd go talk to the department heads and do the best I can. That's about all I have to say.
Okay. Questions?
I guess my question does entail the other two people also, one who has past experience working the Steamship Authority, one who's involved in running boats out of Woods Hole. Do you see that you're sort of not as directly connected being a advantage, disadvantage? How would you advise us to vote when given sort of, you could see that saying, wow, that's awfully great, we have those people.
Well, like you said, first candidate, Bob, I've known him for many years. The second gentleman, he has a long resume. He's also down at Woods Hole a lot. You would have to pick the best person that you could get the job done for what this town needs.
Anyone else?
Okay, I'm going to share a little secret with you. I was sitting here thinking about this. I worked on the Uncatina for 5 years, so I kind of know all about those, all about the boats and the schedules and all of that. So my thinking is, no, don't ask me what I did. So now my thinking is still that idea about New Bedford. What's your thought about trying to increase our 10%? I guess if there's advantages to it or whatever it may be, but it's always been a surprise to me that happened a number of years ago and it hasn't changed. And I'd like for us to have more than 10.
Well, the problem I see, the other part of the coin you might not see, is that Mass Maritime law is so much different than regular law.
Oh.
So if a captain doesn't want to go somewhere, if he doesn't want to take the boat out, he doesn't have to take it out, and no one can tell him he could do it. It's his license on the line. So then you'd have trucks in New Bedford waiting to get on, and they had to go to Woods Hole because the seas are too rough at 6 o'clock in the morning. I think you could probably run it probably about 8 months of the year, maybe 7 months of the year, and take off maybe like from November 1st to who knows what's going to happen this weekend with weather. So until I saw how everything was done and talked to everybody, it's unfair really me to answer any more questions on something like that because I'm not sure.
There's got to be realistic goals in moving that. Things weren't accomplished overnight. At the Mass Municipal Association, had an opportunity to speak with some selectmen on the Vineyard who want to begin the process of moving their trash to New Bedford because that's where they're going to dispose of it. So they asked for help from Falmouth, which is kind of comical because we need their help to be able to do that.
Exactly.
So I think realistic goals would be trash and hazardous waste.
Of course.
Hazardous materials in the short term. And the Port Council tends to be a, for the lack of a better term, the blue-collar group of the folks in regard to advising our Board of Governors. I mean, the fellow Nat from Nantucket, and people like that who tend to have vested interests, typically, meaning because they use the boats a lot. And could you get down and dirty and help persuade them that those are the type of things that Falmouth needs?
Kevin, as you know, I'll do anything I need to get done when I have to get it done. And I would persuade people until I'm blue in the face.
Okay. Okay, great.
People have mentioned the ratios, you know, the percentage of the vote. As far as I'm concerned, it really doesn't matter because the islands will always have the majority. So whether it's 30-30 or 10-10 or 20-20, it really doesn't matter because the islands will always be in control. That's just how it is. But getting off that, in the Port Council, if the budget is really one of the primary objectives of the council to review, then what are some of the other activities that you think the council should be or could be involved in that would be very helpful to the Falmouth community?
Well, like I said, Woods Hole Road is always traffic heavy. And I know I'll be over there tomorrow morning. And I see the buses and everything going down there at a certain time and leaving. We do have to find some type of an option. What can we do? I'm not quite sure yet.
Yeah. Now,
There's-
do you
it-
still travel back and forth to the Vineyard?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
I travel over there at least one day a week. For many years, I did it 6 days a week. I still have help, goes back and forth every day. I usually have a truck at least once or twice over there, and a tractor trailer every month.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you. You were talking about other activities that the council could engage in that would be helpful to the Falmouth community.
Like I said, I'm not quite sure. It's more of a, I'd have to get hands-on to find out what this town wants and what I'm looking at when I get down there.
Would you consider, as a member of the Port Council, taking a look at public outreach and how the council might be able to aid the Steamship Authority by doing something in that area so that the public is more aware of what this, not what the steamship does, but actually what some of their issues are and what some of their goals and objectives are for the future?
The local press would have to be involved all the time. And you're right, nobody pays attention to the Steamship Authority until they want to do something.
Right.
I've noticed that right along. Every time they want to do something in the parking lot, everybody's up in arms about it. And when I was a member, I'm still a member of the Board of Governors of the Ice Arena. I went through that
Oh, yeah.
many times with those gentlemen. It's a well-organized authority. It really is. And it runs on time, probably, if I'm wrong, I might be wrong, but it's probably about 95 to 96% on time. It might leave late, but it usually gets there on time. But the traffic coming out of Woods Hole is tough.
Okay, thanks. I'm good.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will express my desire, as I have in the past, where we've got multiple applicants. I'd like to see the board sleep on this, if you will, for a week, get some feedback from the general public, given we have three well-qualified applicants.
I'm not ready to vote.
I think, I'd say that we take this under advisement and vote on it on our meeting on the 28th.
I agree.
I'm okay with that.
Motion to take these interviews under advisement?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 4-1. All right. Well, the board will be making a decision, in our next meeting is in 2 weeks, so it'll be on the agenda in 2 weeks. Thank you, all three of you, for coming. The next interview we have is for the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. However, the one applicant has withdrawn, so there will be no interview for that this evening. And finally, we have an applicant for the Commission on Disabilities. This is a term expiring June 30, 2016. Nancy Serban.
There she is.
Up here, or
You could, that's all right.
We'll get you.
If you want to come alongside, and Mr. Jones can hand you the microphone, just so the folks at home can hear you.
Thank you. My name's Nancy Serban. I live at 21 Lockstead Drive in East Falmouth, and we moved to Falmouth in May of 2012. And you may not have noticed, but I'm disabled. So when this came up, that there is an opening on the board, I thought maybe I'd give it a shot. I've been very encouraged with Falmouth and the progress they've made as far as the DART bus and the cutaways and the handicap spaces, but there's still some issues. The first one I noticed when I applied for this position was that you don't have an automatic door opener on the door. After you get off the ramp, there's no automatic door, and I hadn't brought someone with me, I wouldn't have been able to get in. So there's definitely some room for improvement.
That takes care of my question as to how Falmouth was doing.
Anyone else?
Have you ever been to any of the committee meetings? Do you
No,
know
I
any of the
just read
folks on
the,
committee? Oh.
no, excuse me, I just read the minutes online. And I haven't talked to anyone about it. I'm really new in town, basically new in town. I've dealt with this, obviously, for a long time, in many different capacities. We lived in Westford for 25 years, and I decided to go to a church, and the church was built in 1795, so couldn't quite get in that church that easily. Fortunately, they were working on making a connector from a newer hall so that they could get in. And a lot of the heavy work had been already done. So it was quite interesting to see how a very old building could be made accessible.
In follow-up, have you ever worked on any committees where, in other words, you have to build consensus on certain issues?
No.
Okay.
In assessing Falmouth, as far as the things that we do have available for someone with a disability, how do you rank the town? I mean, when you need certain things, do you find that the town has offered this, or are you frustrated more often?
I've written some letters.
Well, and in frustration?
In frustration, yeah. I go to the hospital once a month for an infusion of a drug, and I found out that I can't get weighed because there's no handicap accessible scale, and yet the drug that I'm taking is calibrated by your weight. So I was giving them a weight that was probably more of a guess, and we all kind of lie about those things. So somebody probably said, someone said, you can't possibly be that. And I said, oh, well, 20 years ago I was. But immediately Falmouth Hospital got a scale. And there were a couple other incidents like that. My last town, same thing. I had to go to a town meeting to help convince the Community Preservation Society, Community Preservation group to commit money to making this church, helping make this church accessible. Although it had been a very functional building as far as community groups going to. So it really, it's interesting to see how people just assume a lot of things are accessible and they're not. But Falmouth basically is getting there. It's got more room. It's got old buildings with thresholds, and a lot of things have to be made more accessible.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, based on what you've just said, it seems as though if you were on the Disabilities Committee, that you could be, that, first of all, you can get around. I mean, you do get around.
Yeah,
And that
I
you
had
could, in fact, be very valuable to the committee in offering ideas and suggestions that they could recommend to the town in things that need to be changed. I mean, you've already mentioned quite a few of them just in this conversation.
Yeah, there's just little things that you notice when you're in a situation like this that become very, very big and very, very important, and other people don't see them as well. But, I do get around, and I do as much as I possibly can, and my hope is to do as much as I can in the future, as well as allowing other people in my situation to do so.
I guess my other question is, are you really comfortable in bringing up these issues? And that doesn't bother you at all? No? Oh, good, okay.
Squeaky
So-
wheel.
So you will be heard?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Good, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How would the board like to proceed?
I would move to appoint Nancy Serban to the Commission on Disabilities.
In the term.
And the term is,
Expiring June 30, 2016.
Second?
Yep.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition?
no.
Congratulations and thank you.
Congratulations. We think you'll do very well. Thank you. Thank you for applying.
All right, next item on our agenda, we have a report from AmeriCorps.
Favorite people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Miles Sabin. I'm from New Brunswick, Canada, and I have a placement at the Mass Alternative Septic System Test Facility. A mouthful, I know, but yeah, which is up in Falmouth.
And my name is Libby Pfeiffer. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I have an internship and a placement, as we call them in AmeriCorps, at Wacoit Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve, which is really cool.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with AmeriCorps Cape Cod, we are a service program with 32 members residing in Bourne, and we have 2 houses in Wellfleet as well. And we do service projects all over Cape Cod in the fields of natural resource management, disaster preparedness and response, community engagement, and volunteer outreach. We are funded largely by the Corporation for National and Community Service, as well as the Massachusetts Service Alliance, and we're match funded by Barnstable County.
So are you all familiar with AmeriCorps Cape Cod at all? Just nods of approval, okay. So since you kind of know what we do a little bit on Cape Cod, we'll keep this short and sweet. In a given week, we do a wide variety of different projects. On Mondays and Fridays, we work in a group as a house. So we said that we have 3 different houses. We work in our different houses to do a variety of service projects. We do shellfish propagation, we do trail maintenance, erosion control, just anything related to natural resource management, as well as programs for, or involving environmental education. So that's our Monday and Friday. Then we get to our middle days of the week, and that's where we have, as we said, our individual placement. So that's basically an internship that each member of the Corps has at a really wide variety of different organizations. So I work at Webner. We have people that work in the Department of Natural Resources in different towns. We have people working with the National Seashore. So we have a really wide variety of placements. So that's what we do 2 days a week. And we have that one last day, which is our Community Outreach and Development Day, COD Day for short, as we call it. And that's where we work to plan different events. MLK Day, we had a big day of service that was planned entirely by AmeriCorps Cape Cod. We just completed one of our really big events, which was AmeriCorps Week. Each year, a town is chosen to have all of AmeriCorps' efforts put into it for one whole week. This year it was in Brewster. It was called All Access Brewster. We worked on improving handicap accessibility in Brewster. So that we actually just completed our celebration. Closing day was on Saturday. And then this coming Saturday, we have Canal Cleanup, which is in collaboration with the Army Corps of Engineers. And we are a partner in that and helping to plan that. So that's what we get to do on that last day of the week. So there's our 5-day schedule.
Yeah, so the sheet you have in front of you, the white piece of paper, on the back of it, there highlights some of the projects that we've just done this past fall, in Falmouth specifically. So we've worked with Trout Unlimited on the Quashinet River. We've worked doing environmental education at the Mullen Hall School, talking about water quality and conservation, things like that. We've worked with the 300 committee a number of times on different land trust parcels, doing a lot of trail maintenance and things like that. So.
Yeah, so that's, if you have any questions for us about what we do or really anything.
Fairly minor questions, more about the two of you. Is this your first or second year? And if it's your second year, where does it lead after you've done 2 years of AmeriCorps?
This is my first year, so it's been pretty good so far. I'm not sure what's going to happen after. I probably won't serve in AmeriCorps Cape Cod next year, but I'm looking in the area for any sort of environmental related jobs.
This is also my first year. I graduated from college in May, and this is my first year out of college. And I love AmeriCorps Cape Cod and am actually applying to do it again. I have my interview on Wednesday. And I'm looking to do a little bit more of a leadership position next year. So I am really excited to potentially serve the Cape again for another year of service. Another thing I wanted to mention, we didn't put the numbers in, we provide, the 32 members provide 55,000 hours of service over the course of the year. So that's a lot of hours that you get for free from us. Well, kind of for free. And so we all complete 1,700 hours each individual over the course of the year. So we all are very service-minded in the program, and that leads to good things for Cape Cod.
Any other questions?
No, but I want to ask them if they would comment on the big number that's at the bottom of the page there.
Yeah. Yeah, so our estimated value of service to the Cape Cod community is just about 20 million, so specifically $18,260,425.30 over the course of 15 years. This is our 15th year here on the Cape.
And that's actually just until December 2013, so we have a few more months added to that.
Add a couple million on there.
So that's obviously a really big number. This is our 15th year. We're celebrating our 15th year anniversary upon completion of our year of service, and it's the 20th overall year for AmeriCorps being in existence in the United States. So, I mean, clearly our value is evident just based on that number.
Yeah, so that being said, if we could just ask you to approach your town offices, if they are in need of any help at all, we'd be happy to help, and you can contact us at the Barnstable offices there.
We actually worked with the Department of Public Works today planting beach grass, so
Yeah.
that's one thing we did in Falmouth.
I think that while you have the opportunity and our cameras are on, I think you could talk to our town and many young people and encourage them and exactly how they can become an AmeriCorps member. I think you should tell, so what's the minimum age?
Okay, so the minimum age for our particular program, there is basically, you have to have graduated high school and have had 2 years of kind of life experience. So that doesn't necessarily mean college. It can be serving your community in a different way, working, or maybe serving your country in a different way. So that's the minimum for our program. For AmeriCorps in general, there are programs that you can be 18 and apply right out of high school. So it depends on the program that you're looking for. There are so many programs that are under the blanket of AmeriCorps across the United States. Ours is very environmentally based on our location, but there's lots in education and social work and just so many different opportunities for people to get involved. It doesn't matter your age, and it's just really an amazing program.
Yeah, it's an excellent way to get a very wide variety of experience and exposures to some issues that you might not have had experience with before, or maybe you're interested in those things and you can apply specifically for those programs. But really the experience is invaluable, and you can use that for the rest of your life, even if you don't really know where it will take you.
I'll just lead the questions. I was aware of AmeriCorps in another part of the country who helped a lot with disadvantaged people and communities. And the young people that came into that area are very similar to the two of you. And I think maybe the idea that you should possibly, in thinking that it isn't just on Cape Cod. And it's a very strong point to say it's one of our best programs in this country. And it is in every state. So I don't know exactly what all the titles of the different activities that go on, but maybe you can kind of fill that in. That if you were not here on the Cape, would there have been another place in the country, if you went to the Southwest or the Northeast, or what would you think?
Yeah, when I was looking into doing, I graduated college and was kind of looking for the next place to go, and I knew I wanted to do service and kind of give back to the community. So I looked into a lot of programs in the Southwest, a lot of conservation corps involved with AmeriCorps. I know the Student Conservation Association, they work a lot through AmeriCorps, and yeah, there are a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, we had the opportunity in, I think it was November, to go to what's called Opening Day, and it brings together all of the AmeriCorps programs in the state of Massachusetts, and you get to see all of the people that work in AmeriCorps across the state, just our state. And there's just so many people, and so many people that are passionate about what they're doing, whether it's in education. There's a lot of education, especially in kind of underprivileged areas, that AmeriCorps works with, and there's just so many different opportunities to serve just the state of Massachusetts, and I can't even imagine all the other states that are out there and all the other opportunities that are potentially given to us through AmeriCorps.
Thank you very much.
I just have a couple of things I just wanted to mention, is that the, obviously AmeriCorps operates under the governance of Barnstable County, but the county has to apply every year to the National Service Program for AmeriCorps. It's not a guarantee. Every year you have to apply. The other thing is Barnstable County is the only AmeriCorps program that provides a residence for their AmeriCorps volunteers. In other places in the country, the volunteers have to find their own housing. So the fact that the county has housing here at the Bourne House and the Wellfleet House, and also the Seashore now because of the fire program, really makes a huge difference. And over the 15 years, we wanted to look at how many of the AmeriCorps workers actually stayed or came back and worked here. And over 15 years, I think the number, and Chrissy, you can help me, is it 32%?
We'll say for at least a year.
Yeah, who would stay for at least a year after the program left. And last couple of weeks ago was Mayor's Day for AmeriCorps, for the National Service Corps. And so we took a tour of, we always do that every year now. And we went to Harwich, and we went to Thompson's Field in Harwich, which is a beautiful conservation area. And both of the people who were working there were AmeriCorps volunteers years back. So you can go lots of places on the Cape and meet former AmeriCorps volunteers, because they engage very much in the environment. And when they do, they want to come back and make sure it stays that way after all your hard grunt work, right?
Exactly.
But we thank you for your service, truly.
We're happy to help.
I remember it was just a few short years ago that the funding was in jeopardy, and AmeriCorps was in jeopardy here in at least Cape Cod.
That's right.
And we're very pleased and happy that that funding was still made available, and that this community was able to take advantage of AmeriCorps, and we hope you're around for a lot more years to come. Thank you.
Last questions or comments? Any questions or comments from the audience?
Hello, Peter McConerty, Town Engineer. I just wanted to say that the town of Falmouth receives a great benefit from AmeriCorps. As you know, every year on May 1st, we're required to submit a NEPDES report to the EPA, the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. And through that system, they come up with a Phase 3 in 2012. It hasn't been enacted yet. It's still in the regulations, refining the regulations. But at that time, the engineering division was looking at how we were going to be able to meet the standards of these new regulations in the new Phase 3 of the MS4, the NEPDES permit. And with that, our staffing level wasn't able to perform all the duties. So luckily, the Public Works applied to the AmeriCorps in 2012, and we received we filled in the application and received we had a very young, bright woman, Kelsey, that came to work with us in 2012. And she started our system through the ponds and the estuaries, where we were looking at all our outfalls. And we had most of them in 2004. We had tracked most of them. We had them located with GPS, but we didn't get into the wetlands and we didn't get into the estuaries. So with Kelsey working with the engineering department, she was able to go out and she started that system. Very bright young woman. She went on her own. She made her own posters. She made her own GIS maps. She took our assessors maps, added all the drainage data. In 2013, we were lucky enough to have another bright young woman, Sarah, that came to work with us. And same deal. She picked right up where Kelsey left off, and finished up actually with the Little Pond area and all the roadways that are leading into the Little Pond area. And we know we're having problems with the wastewater in that area. But with that, so now we're looking at all the contribution of the stormwater going into those ponds, so we'll be able to work with that. And then in 2014, we also have a gentleman, Corey, that came to work with the DPW. Now, the individuals, they work from Wednesdays and Thursdays, 2 days a week, for 10 months out of the year, and it provided us very extraordinary amount of help with the engineering division. We would not have been able to do the work that we've done in the last 3 years. So, and I believe Falmouth, we're the only town on Cape Cod that is working with AmeriCorps on the NEPDES stormwater regulations for this new Phase 3. I believe with the other towns, they might be working with they might be working with the marine or the fisheries or the different departments. But as far as Public Works in Falmouth, I think we're the only town on Cape Cod that are trying to address the stormwater. So when the time comes ready, in another year or 2 years, when this comes out, we should be all set. They've finished the Little Pond area, they've done the Great Pond, and now they're working up on some of the ponds up in North Falmouth. So they've been very helpful with the town of Falmouth, and we're very grateful to have their assistance with us.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
And next on the agenda, we have a report from our Steamship Authority representative, Catherine Norton.
That's me.
I gave you a quick synopsis and agenda of what I'm going to talk about. Thank you. Kind of the one thing I like about being on the steamship, is they meet in the morning. You get to stay up all night. So thanks for the opportunity to come and let you know what's happening and what I've been doing since you appointed me. And when we had that interview, you all said you wanted to hear back what people are doing down there. So I will tell you that since I've been appointed, I have been meetinged to death. I have been going to, even though they only meet once a month, I've been going to a number of meetings, including the Port Council meetings, because since we didn't have a representative, I thought it was important that we have someone from Falmouth on that board, and they were terrific. So the other meetings, of course, that I've been going to are the Woods Hole Working Group with the new design of the terminal, and I'll mention that a little bit later. We've met with town officials on various projects. I've toured the mainland ports, repair facilities, all the places that the Steamship Authority has a presence. And of course, I have had, in talking about outreach, I have many conversations with our local constituents. People are all like to talk about the Steamship Authority and give us helpful hints. And I have to tell you that a number of the requests that have come through have already been acted upon, taken care of, in the process of being taken care of. And it's these small little itsy things that can make a big difference to how the community perceives what's going on. So first, let me give you a couple of general facts about the SSA presence in Falmouth. Last year, this is the annual report from 2013, there were 2.2 million passengers from Woods Hole to Martha's Vineyard. Okay, so but in other words, that's 1.1 going over, 1.1 coming back. Okay, so it's not going in both directions. There is a 50-cent embarkation fee, so you gotta love that, for each passenger, but it's supplied within a formula. There are some passengers that don't get included in that formula, like school groups, commuters, island residents traveling on auto excursion fares and things like that. So last year, you received $354,000. And in the past 10 years, it's ranged from about $356,000 a year to the low of $347,000 a year. And over the last 10 years, because this was enabled in 2004, the town of Falmouth has received $3,513,465.50. And I like to put that 50 cents in there because, being from New Bedford, my mother and father used to talk about Hetty Green. Hetty Green was the richest woman in the world, but she was a miser. And she was always saying, if you take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. So this 50 cents recognizes that those are those 50 cents that we collect for the town of Falmouth. The registration states that these fees are for a special fund in the town to mitigate any impact the steamship has on the community. So you have funds to deal with things like police that would have to be called out, fire, any of those kinds of things. And it's a funds especially to mitigate any problems with the steamship. During that last year, we had 388,864 cars traveling back and forth, or 194,000 going one way. Trucks under 20 feet, and I think yours say 20 inches. Trucks under 20 feet, there were 73,000, about 36 going over, coming back. And trucks that are greater than 20 feet, this is what everybody always yells about, there were 45,000, about 45,600. Again, 22,000 going over and coming back. And if you take that out over the 365 days that the steamship operates, there is 62 going over and coming back in a day. So it isn't, I mean, they've done traffic reports, and I mean, we all scream about the traffic on Woods Hole Road, I know I do, but the traffic studies that have been done in this town, Davis Straits and Sandwich Road, are busier than Woods Hole Road. Hard to believe, but they are. So if you look at the vehicle data closely, It's the cars and the trucks that are under 20 feet that have increased the most going over to the island, not the great big tractor trailer, because that has a lot to do with the building, et cetera, and so forth, that has gone down. Steamship employees, 685 people. By county, there are 412 in Barnstable County, 61 in Dukes County, which is Martha's Vineyard, 26 in Nantucket, 76 in Bristol County, which is New Bedford. They only employ 21. And a lot of people come to the New Bedford terminal from Dighton and Swansea. They have 26 from that area. It's odd. And then there are 110 more from off-Cape towns. In Barnstable County, which we are, 226 of the employees of the Steamship Authority live in Falmouth. And that payroll, just for those 226 people, are about $10 million a year. That excludes pensions and health insurance, so it's an economic boost to the town. Now, I want to tell you about the projects that we have been working on, and these all precede me. I mean, and so I'm kind of bringing people up to date, and there's been a lot of movement on the project since I've been there. The Palmer Avenue lot is being improved at the moment. They're increasing the parking there. As you know, we took over the area that the skating rink was, and we are redoing that entire parking lot. We're going to go from 1,450 spaces to 1,800 spaces. We've met with Julian and Peter, who was fabulous, and Rocky and Heather, to go over a number of the engineering plans of that area, plus the plantings, which was very important to me, what kind of plants and trees were going to be there. They're working to camouflage the view from Palmer Ave and the bike path, and make sure that you don't see a sea of blacktop when you drive in there. They have come up with a plan that the trees will be planted along the parking spaces, so you're not looking at this sea of cars either. You will have trees in those areas, and they have these giant holes, basically, that have a drainage underneath it, so the trees will actually grow. A lot of towns try to put something in the middle of the cars, and they usually end up putting them in a pot, and of course they all fry and die. But they have come up with a new method to do this, so it will be pleasing to look at. And from 28A, you're not going to see this ugly, parking lot with 1,800 cars in it. You're going to see, hopefully, what looks like a botanical garden. A little exaggeration there, but we're getting there. Technology Park is the next one. This Palmer Avenue lot will be ready to go by May 31st this year, 2013. Technology Park, we're beginning construction out there in October. We won't be able to take over the land and demolish the buildings until that time. They're bringing in kind of a new technology to bear on the surface. It's going to be poured. We met with the department heads here in town and went over all the plans. There's going to be a layer of porous asphalt, and that's going to be over 3 or 4 courses of well-drained stone. And this is kind of new for areas, and it's been tested down on Commercial Street down in P-Town, and everybody down there loves it. And it's not going to take a lot of maintenance, et cetera, and so forth. So hopefully we'll have that up and running by May 31st, 2015, because we won't start until this October. The next one is the new boat. The steamship is moving forward in the design and engineering plans that will replace the Governor. It's designed so that it'll be able to go into all ports that the SSA serves. That's very important because Hyannis has a very shallow draft in Hyannis, so you want to make sure that all the boats that are in the fleet can go in and out of Hyannis. Sometimes they have a problem with boats that go offline, and you have to serve that island. So this is being designed so it goes into everything. Its capacity will be about 55 car spaces or 10 full truck spaces and 384 passengers, which is an increase in 13 car spaces and 134 passengers over the Governor. It can also serve as one of the main boats in the winter when ships like the Island Home, which carries 1,200 passengers, are in dry dock for repairs or maintenance. So the winter runs, according to all the statistics that they've looked at, never have any more than 400 passengers. So this boat will take care of anything that goes on in the winter. The Governor will be retired and sold. The cost of the new boat is between $35 and $40 million. And today I saw on the web something that brought tears to my eyes, is the old Islander that had been sold off, and it's now just a hull, a wreck down in Long Island Sound somewhere. Everything has been stripped off of it, except it says SS Islander. Sad to see. So hopefully we can find someone who would take care of the Governor. And of course, something that you've all been waiting for is the Woods Hole Terminal redesign. The docks need a major repair so that they're going to be rebuilt and moved closer to each other for easy access of loading and to free up space where the freight boat is now docked to allow the bike path to terminate down in Cahoon Park. I don't have the plans with us because they're not, we're going to bring them to the Woods Hole community tomorrow night for the first time that anybody will see them. But basically, the design will have the bike path coming down on the outer edge, and it will not terminate in the middle of the road like it does now going straight into Quix's Hole or the lee side. It will go straight down into Cahoon Park, terminate there, be so much safer for people on bikes. And down in that area, they're going to have a number of bike racks. I mean, hopefully up to about 50 bike racks. So people, this will be a place where people really can ride their bikes, lock them, and go through the village and spend, some time in there. Now, there's really no place for them. It's the terminus of the bike path, but they can't do anything with their bikes. So this is going to be a great boon for the town. Since the first meeting, the Woods Hole community, when the steamship rolled out their plans, they were met with what I might say major concerns by the community. And since then, they have been working with a Woods Hole working group. On that group are representatives from the Woods Hole community, Catherine Bumpers, Stephen Junker, and from the business group. Kevin's been on that, and Beth Cole. And these two groups that sometimes, don't quite get along on this, they actually do. They get along on what should happen. They had eight major concerns of what was wrong with the original design. Some of them were very easily taken care of. There were these overhead walkways, in one of the designs that everybody was crazy about. They wanted to make sure that there was a vista, an open vista, from the brow of the hill up by the library so that you had an open view of the water. And there are a number of other concerns that I think that they have worked through. Have they satisfied everything? No, but it's been a real compromise. It's been a great working relationship. And we're going to present it on Wednesday night to the Woods Hole community. And it's not the end. As you see, this project is going to probably not be finished until 2019, but the beginnings of it now are moving along, and we need to get some designs in so that we can go forward and get some other permits, et cetera, and so forth. So the Woods Hole Working Group has all said that they'd like to continue to work with us. The terminal itself will no longer be a box, and the boxes that were presented, but it will hopefully present what the village wants it to present. It will be aesthetically pleasing. It will be something similar to the terminal that's over in Martha's Vineyard that is really quite pretty and fits in with that atmosphere, and hopefully we'll have the same thing down in Woods Hole. It will be safer. We'll be able to get more cars in. The turnarounds will be safe for the buses and get everybody in and out of Woods Hole without any backups, I say, right now, without any backups, because there are no more slots for cars. There's the same number of slots for cars that we have down there now. They're just going to be in a different position. Okay, so we're not increasing the capacity of the terminal at all. One of the things we are doing is moving the entire administrative staff out of Woods Hole, so they'll be someplace else. That's, under negotiations at the moment. So, about 60 people, 60 cars won't be in Woods Hole. They'll be someplace else. And the terminal will have a lobby, and as I call it, TNT, tickets and toilets, because the toilets are very important in Woods Hole. They are the only public toilets that are down there that people are allowed to use. So there'll be a ticket office and there'll be new design toilets. I don't want to end on toilets, but
There'll be questions,
but
I'm
it's
sure.
a very, really exciting project that's going on, and there's been such good collaboration going on. So I'll let you know what happens after Wednesday night, but I think that people will be pleased. Questions?
I've got 4. You mentioned the embarkation fees,
Yes,
and how is that set? Is that set by statute?
statute,
Could we
right.
change the statute so we actually got a 5 cents, 10 cents for each car and each truck? Because actually, that's what we're experiencing more payment for, is the use of the roads, not the use of the feet. And so as opposed to...
It's not feet, it's passengers only.
Right,
Right.
right. The only thing we're getting money for is each...
Okay, so I'll tell you,
person, so I'd
I'll tell you
love-
this, I've had a couple of conversations with Tim Madden about various things, and about the 35%, and about this and that, and it's like, so you can only change this by legislation.
I mean, maybe that's something our Board of
Yeah.
Selectmen needs to do as well.
It's only something
As
that
a
can be
petition.
changed by legislation.
But that means it can be. And that, I mean,
Right,
it's
it
certainly-
was changed in 2004, that was only 10 years ago. And the Enabling Act was 62? What was the Enabling Act, 62? 60.
Okay.
And so 10 years ago, they changed part of it, yeah.
is there any possibility of part of the parking lot being used for people wanting to get to Woods Hole, not to get on the ferry, but just to get to Woods Hole? And to be able to make that, right now we have a horrible parking issue in Woods Hole. Is there any way the Steamship Authority could say, we could set aside 100 spots for people who wanted to hop on our bus and go and be visitors of Woods Hole? Is there any possibility of that?
So we haven't gone into that. We're now, choking over the fact that in the new design, we haven't got any public parking.
That was my third question.
Yes, we don't have any public parking in the new design. So we're trying to work out something about that.
It's good,
Okay?
because
It's
otherwise
not
that-
there. We're trying to work that out.
Without that, that lease in the back is going to be very hard to sign.
Right. So, and the other thing is, I will tell you right now, there are a number of people who go to Falmouth Academy, and that they use the steamship buses all the time to get back and forth. That's what they use, to get from
From
Woods
the
Hole
vineyard,
up.
you mean.
And, go ahead, get on. No one cares. If there's someone there to get on the bus, they get on the bus. If they can walk from wherever to Palmer Ave, they can get on the bus now. Pat,
No, I was just,
sorry.
If you could, all set? Okay.
no, I don't have a question. I
Oh,
was
okay.
just commenting on, these are Falmouth Academy students who come from the vineyard.
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry,
Right. yeah,
right. They're not just floating around.
Right.
A couple of things, Kathy. You brought up one that they're moving the offices out of Woods Hole, and wherever that may be. A big pet peeve of mine is that their reservation offices are in Mashpee. And Mashpee is not a host community for the Steamship Authority, but yet they get the jobs and they get the income for the reservation offices in the town of Mashpee.
All right, so you'll be
So-
happy to know that the plan is, it's all going to be in one place in Falmouth.
Okay, so that's great.
Take that
I
off your plate.
just wanted to continue to harp on that, because Mashpee has always
yes.
been one that has not borne any of the brunt of anything with the Steamship Authority, but has gotten the jobs and the location of the reservation offices. So thank you very
There are
much.
33 employees with the Steamship Authority that live in Mashpee. Now, they may work in Woods Hole. I don't know that. Or they may work in the ticket office in Mashpee. I don't know the answer to that. If you want, we can find out.
No, but when there's an office there, that means that those folks may shop there, they might buy there, so their local economy is affected by that. And it would behoove that, it would be hard for me to sit here and say, okay, well, they're in Hyannis. Well, Hyannis is a host community, but Mashpee is not, so that's
The
one of
plans are to bring
Okay.
that back under one
Okay.
roof, Kevin. That's a
Great.
real issue with the administration.
And I know we've talked on this board level about the lease that is expiring a year from December.
Right.
And we need to start working on that with them to accomplish exactly what you're talking about. Some parking issues there that could be addressed for the community as well as the Steamship Authority as well.
True.
And that should all be part of this original plan, because what Kathy is talking about being presented to the community has been a gracious working arrangement with the Steamship Authority from where we were, what was presented to what has now come back as a concept that, again, you're never going to please everybody all the time, but I want to thank Mr. Lamson for being very open and very congenial to the community association and the businesses there to be able to provide something that we're going to be able to live with in this community for the next 50 years.
That's right.
Because that's what this is going to be. So for everyone that doesn't know, there is a meeting this Wednesday night at 7:30 at the Community Hall. And I know Kathy plans on being there with the presentation of the new concept.
Right.
Something that has been refined over the course of this period. And the promise has been from the Steamship Authority that this is just the concept, and we're going to
Concept.
continue to refine it as we move forward, and hopefully we'll come up with something we all can embrace. But that parking issue, as we move forward, the lease, is going to be key to the, whether the village of Woods Hole can be livable and as we move forward. But thank you, Kathy, for I know that you have been there, and in all forms of this working through this.
Right. And I think that, in our push to be green, we were hoping that people who live in Woods Hole would ride their bikes, because now we're, providing bike racks for them. In the new lot out in Technology Park and over here in Palmer Ave, there are electric charging station for electric cars. So, they're really moving. They have a commitment to being green, as they would say. And so hopefully they will cut down on pollution, all of those kinds of things.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions or comments from the audience for our representative? Okay. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda, we have an application for a seasonal common victual license, the Florence Tea Room, 197 Crystal Springs Avenue in North Falmouth. The applicant or the applicant's representative. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Clive Gummel. I own the tea room, and I'm here to ask for reinstatement of my common vic license and place to cook a hamburger, food license that I've had for 27 years, something like that. It lapsed a year and a half ago. When I turned the tea room over to my son. And my son is, he's got 4 little kids and really couldn't do what my wife and I did. So he let it lapse. He didn't follow through with some of the paperwork. But I filled out the papers this last time, and I did it the same way I did it for 27 years. Okay. So I'm just asking to have it reinstated.
Are you also applying for automatic amusement device license?
Yes, I am.
All right, and I apologize, we'll have to do that in 2 weeks because for some reason that was not placed on our agenda, so we can't take action on that this evening. But we can certainly address this. Are there any questions from the board?
No, I have no questions. I know that the tea room has been an institution there in New Silver Beach for decades.
We love the tea room.
Everyone has and will continue in the future. So I'm in whole heart support of
Yeah,
this.
long before I bought it, Kevin.
Yeah, that was my first job. I worked at the tea room, so.
I would move approval of the season common victual license for
Second.
Falmouth Tea Room.
Second?
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the common victual license. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? It's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is-
Do I have to read these,
We'll take care of it, but you need
the
to come back in 2
amusement?
weeks.
I think we could just put that on the summary of actions that.
We may be able to, because the application is here, but
Yes, I
unfortunately,
filled
it wasn't properly posted on the agenda, so,
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you very much.
thank you. And the next item on our agenda, we have an application for a Class 2 license, Seaside Auto Sales, 14 Nye Road, East Falmouth. The applicant or the applicant's representative?
Evening. I'm Attorney Chris Levers. I'm representing the applicant. The applicant himself is also with me tonight, Peter Maley. What you have before you tonight is an application for 3 used cars at a property located at 14 Nye Road. 14 Nye Road is located in the B2 zoning district. It has the benefit of a special permit from the Board of Appeals. If I might borrow some of the language from that decision, it's part of your packet. The board finds the site adequate, sufficient parking, felt that the use would have a minimal effect on the visual character of the neighborhood. The location, again, is more or less on the corner of Nye Road and Main Street. Not exactly on the corner, you gotta go one property back. It's behind the, kind of the convenience store, gas station property. To get you a little bit more acclimated, what's across the street is that vacant lot, used to be a gas station years ago. You have Dunkin' Donuts across Main Street on the other side. It's really not very far from here, just kind of a stone's throw down the road. The applicant himself is very, very experienced in this business. For 22 years, is that right, Peter? 22 years he has held permits out of Brockton. He has relocated to Falmouth. He's down here with his mother. He's taking care of his mother, living with his mother presently. And he wants to be part of our community. He prefers Falmouth to Brockton, quite frankly. He wants to be here. He wants to be able to resume what he's been doing for years and years and years in Brockton, which is essentially selling cars, affordable cars for people who need cars. We all need cars out there. This is a service. The way I look at it, this really is a service to our community. Every one of us, I'd be willing to bet in this room, has a driver's license and drives a car. There aren't too many people these days who don't. Brand-new cars out there, as I'm sure you know, are costing you $40,000 or more. Mr. Maley provides a service, and this particular location appears to be a very suitable location, really located in the heart of our business district. I've been in Falmouth my whole life. I know some of you have, some of you haven't. There have been car dealerships along that area on both sides of the road over the years. Strike that, at least on the other side of the road by Stone's Barber Shop and back in there years ago. The Firestone location was a car dealership when I was a young kid. I remember it well. This is a use that I feel is okay at that, is beneficial at that location. And I might add that the Board of Appeals has already determined that in prior hearings. I don't think we're actually here tonight particularly on the site itself. I think we're here tonight to talk about the applicant and his qualifications. I'm going to ask him to come up here and introduce himself. He was a little bit concerned. He's from out of town. He's relatively new to the community. He wanted me to be here with him tonight. But this is really an opportunity to look at Mr. Maley and decide if he's a suitable applicant for a permit. I can only say to you, 22 years of experience doing this in Brockton. I asked him, have you had problems? He said, never had a problem. I think he's an absolutely wonderful candidate to have here tonight. So with
Counselor,
that,
if we could, why don't we see if there's any questions from the board?
okay, before we get to the applicant himself?
If the board may have questions of him specifically. It might be easier for him to
All right,
answer
maybe I'm
them
going to have
as-
him join me. Peter, if you want to come right over here.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I have some questions.
Thanks, my friend.
Would you like to go ahead?
I guess my question is, are you familiar with the decision of the zoning board of appeals back in 1998 regarding the use of this property for motor vehicles? Which, like, for instance, there are no repairs can be done, do you understand that? And in terms of lighting and fencing around the property? Okay, so you're familiar with the requirements from the ZBA?
I'm not looking to change anything, I just want to keep it just the way you guys have it.
Well, could you tell us a little bit about how you expect to run your business there? Like how many cars you're going to have, how you're going to sell them, what your method of sale is? and-
I do a lot on eBay, I do a lot on Craigslist, I'm in the Cape Cod Times constantly, and just hopefully the exposure will help me too, all together, to build a business. It's a lot smaller than what I had. I was pretty big in Brockton, but Brockton kind of got a little, weird, sketchy. And down here, I've been here for 20 years, on and off with my mom, and this is where I want to live and conduct business, to be honest with you. I feel safer down here. I like the people down here. I just like it.
So do you plan to live on the property where you're going to sell the
Oh,
cars?
no, I live on 29 Sally Lane
Oh, okay.
in Great Harbors.
So you're going to just use this for the business?
Just an
and
office
that's
and a
it?
business, that's it, yes.
Do you see it being a specialty kind of car that you're going to be selling, or just?
To be honest with you, sir, anything between 3,000 and 6,000, because I'm just trying to keep with the economy, with the kids who need cars and the families that only can afford one new car versus two. So I've been kind of going with the economy with this one. I've been getting, good results the last 5 years with this economy. Keep in between 3,000 and 6,000. Would like to go up someday, but I don't see it really happening with the economy, but I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm not asking for any more.
Thank you.
I'm familiar with this location. I know that there were used cars there at this location in the past. I haven't seen anything contrary, as long as he abides by the zoning board of appeals decision on no working on the cars and only 3 cars maximum at the location at a time. The site has been used for multiple purposes in the past, anything from a real estate office to this as well, so.
Ms. Moffett?
Well, I drove over this morning,
Okay.
and I noticed that the Carlson Insurance sign is on the top of the building.
Yes, ma'am.
I walked all around the property. I noticed it's residential on the other side of you, and then you have the gas station on the corner. But are you using that back area as you would come into that driveway, and it's all kind of gravel, and there's a chain link fence up there?
I'm going to use as much as I can. I've already spoke to the tenant upstairs. I already hired landscapers, if I do get it, to clean the whole area up, to fix the fences that are falling apart. There's old bicycles out there, there's shopping carts, everything that I'm not too happy with. But I spoke to Mr. Turner, which is going to be my landlord, and he agreed I can do whatever I want to make that place look beautiful. I had a little conversation with the guy upstairs. I had him get all that trash out back, getting it out, because it was, I guess, attracting animals. I'm going to make it look beautiful.
Yeah, it did not look.
It does, but when
It
I'm
does
done,
look-
though, it's going to, but it's just, I haven't got in there enough to, I'm not going to do too much if it's not mine. But when I do get in,
He
I'm gonna-
hasn't been there yet.
Yeah.
The hope is to get in there, clean it up, and start operating. The property's owned by Harry Turner, and the paperwork, again, is in the file. There's a letter, there's a contingent lease, and there's a bond, and so forth. But the hope is to clean up that very mess you're describing.
Yeah, it was messy. I don't like it. But I'm going to fix it because I don't want to be in that environment.
And then you will have an office in that building?
Yes, ma'am, there's an office out back with the garage out back. The office is inside the building.
Okay, and then the cars will be back there?
Actually, the cars, the way the plot plan was, they just line up against that fence when you pull in. That was the original plan that was there for many, many years, so I just figured I'd just keep it the way it is. And then maybe someday, if I'd like to expand, I would like to come back to you people and say, can I get another 3 or 4 cars? But that'll be in the future, if I like the area and everything's good.
Will you have more activity on the internet than you will with the cars that are going to be in that area in the back?
I couldn't tell you that. I mean, it's hit or miss. I do a lot of business out of the Cape Cod Times, believe it or not. It's a very nice newspaper. It gets me a lot of business. I really can't see a lot of people going by and coming in all the time because it's kind of set back, but, you know, it's a risk I take.
Well, there were quite a few neighborhood signatures that we saw in our papers, that signed, you know, as far as very concerned about what was going there. And they're the residents that are going up and down that street.
I guess so.
Well, I'm going to make it look very pretty, I can tell you that. A lot prettier than it is, that's a fact. And that's the best I can really say, you know. I'm going to just do my best to make it look nice, because that's how I like to do business.
Did I miss something? Because I didn't see anything in my packet that said anything from the neighbors.
I didn't either.
I don't know where
I
you...
think it was the ZBA, was it from the ZBA hearing? No, I don't know.
Oh, because
I
there's
didn't see
nothing about this
anything.
32
license.
names, and it's a woman, lives on the street next to them. We'll keep going, but I'll look through that.
I don't remember, I'm asking the rest of the
There's
board.
nothing in this packet, no.
Yeah, all right. I don't, it's 3 cars. If he wants more cars, he has to go to the zoning board of appeals before you come here.
Right.
So anything would have to go through
Do
the
that.
zoning board of appeals. I don't see any reason not to authorize this, because it had already been authorized. So it was already a business that ran there before, and 3 cars is not an abundant number of cars, as long as, you know, zoning
I
enforcement
might
officer-
come back to see you, though.
You're not gonna see us first, you're gonna see the zoning board of appeals.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's the way you gotta go through the
Yeah,
process.
no problem.
So I'd make a motion to approve, subject to the zoning board of appeals.
Second.
A motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments from the audience? Okay. All right, motion, second. Any further discussion from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? It's unanimous.
Thank you
Congratulations.
very
Thank
much,
you.
guys. Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Next item on our agenda, we have a continued request for the fee exemption, the Falmouth Farmers Market.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Kate Mahoney from the Falmouth Farmers Market. Here tonight to follow up on Karen Schwabe's previous presentation regarding our request for the fee waiver for 2014 season of the Farmers Market at Peg Noonan Park, and hoping that the board will be able to vote on this fee waiver request tonight, as we are getting very late to sending out we've sent out our applications to our vendors, but have not been able to confirm to them the fee that may be increased, or hopefully not, for the season, so.
Now, when we last had you folks before us, you were going to check in with Rocky to see if there was any potential in-kind donations, and I see a head shaking here. So.
Well, we have reached out to him a few times, but in the meantime, too, he had done a presentation that evening as well.
Right.
And then since then, we have come to learn that the irrigation system now is going to be part of that. So in his presentation back on March 31st, apparently there was an irrigation system was not part of the design, I understand, and now it is. So yes, we have talked to him about the layout, the proposed layout, but as far as the in-kind, at this point, our board has spoken about that and hope that, based on previous years' in-kind contributions, that really has demonstrated to the board and the community that we have, that value that we have provided has, that's the history of that, and we're not really seeking further in-kind park maintenance as part of our contribution to the town, because there are so many other aspects and benefits that we have done, such as the food donation to the service center, and classes that we've collaborated on with the Historical Society and Highfield Hall, and other benefits that we have enumerated many times and have documented and provided to you. So to answer your question, no, we're not seeking to have an active role in in-kind maintenance of the park,
Yeah,
other than,
I know from his presentation that it seemed that there were going to be limited opportunities, and it sounds like
that's
there
our understanding too, that
there are none at this point.
they're paying a landscape group.
They're paying a
That was what we were told, that they are going to be,
Is-
I may have that wrong, I don't think so.
Was this,
There's
and
no
I
landscape.
apologize for putting you on the spot, Mr. Suso, but was it Mr. Gomes' employees who are going to be doing the work, or are we paying a landscaper to do this work?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I'm
But that it's
sorry,
his
I may have
employees
misspoke, but
Okay.
he specifically told me that a landscaping contractor was going to be hired to do at least the initial complete redo of the park, in
We'll be happy to
in
get
sync
back to
with the
board with
DPW.
a report on that, but it's fundamentally, my understanding is in-house, in-kind, in-house, existing staff. No new staff have been hired either.
Okay.
This is within Mr. Gomes' overall oversight. It would not surprise me that a landscape architect is involved in the design and layout, as a consultant. But the basic work, my understanding is, will be in-house. I'll get back to the board with that, with an update. Happy to do so.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
We don't have any questions.
All right. Well, how do we want to proceed?
I would like to suggest that in recognition of the benefit the farmers market has for this year, I would like to have their fee be half of what we've proposed, but that half that we are asking for is actually paid for by the in-kind work they did last year, and so that the total fee for this year would be $100.
In other words, giving them a credit for the work that they did over and above last year, what they agreed to do.
I'm not quite, I didn't quite follow that.
I think that the fee that we're looking for is $2,300, is $100 per day.
Mhm.
And I think to have that being that total fee, I would disagree with and think I could see a 50% reduction of that because of all the great things that the farmers market, I think, provides for the town. But this year, the amount of in-kind work they did last year, I would like to have that carry over to cover their vast majority of their fee for this year,
So the end of the fee would be
$100.
for the
2,000
season?
Yep.
And just, and I'm hoping what you folks have in your packet is what I have here, but they did, if you will recall, they did provide us with an estimate that they had provided almost almost $8,000 in in-kind services last year, and that was based on a fee that would have been charged to them for $2,000. So what Mr. Jones is suggesting is essentially that in exchange, whether you look at it as $1,000 or $2,000 for their fee in general, they still, you could say they've banked goodwill with us to the tune of approximately $6,000. And I would support Mr. Jones' recommendation.
Well,
Mr. Murphy?
Last year was last year. I didn't dispute the numbers that they gave us for last year because it met what the fee was. But if we're going to do carryover, we'll open up what it is. I don't know who they were paying $50. I mean, their in-kind services were based on $50 per hour. I don't know where you get 24 hours at $50 an hour. I mean, I don't know any landscapers that get paid $50 an hour, but.
I can explain that.
I'm speaking right now.
Okay,
And
excuse me.
so, last year was last year. I think we had talked at our last meeting about the potential of a 50% waiver, and the other 50% would go as scholarships for those local farmers, meaning the people who actually are from Falmouth, because it would, if there was any fee increase, it would go to help those folks. Saying that's from last year is, to me, unacceptable, but I don't know if I'm a minority in this group, so I'm not going to keep belaboring the point.
I originally was thinking, I liked your suggestion of the 50% having to do with a waiver for the local markets, local farmers, but then realized that becomes like the the free puppy that we keep asking the state not to give us don't give us money and then tell us, or give us a fee reduction, but have stipulations saying, but then you have to do this with the money you're giving. And I felt very uncomfortable with us telling them how to deal with their money. That's the reason why, originally I was completely supportive of that, but I don't feel as comfortable with that now.
I just have a question. Did you pay the total fee last year, $2,300?
No, we paid $100.
For the whole summer?
Correct.
Okay, just $100?
Right.
And how did that happen? May I ask?
Because we made a presentation to you last year for the fee waiver, same basic premise at that time. The policy, the special events policy and fee waiver were kind of in progress.
Right.
And we had originally requested the exemption, which was not accepted, and then we pursued the waiver request, predicated similarly on the prior years in-kind work that we had done showing, and actually the year prior, that was a little less formal collaboration with the DPW. So in reality, 3 years, the farmers market has been doing in-kind work with the DPW, 2 years now, formally recognized.
But the major change is, 2 years ago, the fee was $100 for the use of the park. We changed the policy that we wanted to be $100 per day, which is when we were officially, 2 years ago, we officially asked for 100. Last year, we officially asked for 2,100, which was a huge increase. And so because of that huge increase, we said to all of a sudden do that didn't seem like a fair thing to do, which is the other reason why I think at the time we accepted as a slower adjustment to the big jump, saying this year it will be in kind. But last year it would be in kind, and I'm still looking for a way of acknowledging that this is what the fee for using the park
No, I follow
is.
the history, right.
I know, but the bottom line is, for $100, you don't get it for 23 days. I mean, how do you justify that to every other organization in this community? The nonprofits, the charitable groups that we charge a fee by the day. You know, if you're gonna be fair and consistent, be fair and consistent with everybody, not just with one group. It's just as simple as that. You know, whatever, but you just opened up, as Mr. Putnam always says, Pandora's box, because if you do it for one, you gotta do it for everybody, and there's a lot of good things that happen in this community that we charge them a fee. It's as simple as that, but, you know, they charge these vendors fees, so go up on the fee. It's as simple, it's supply and demand. If there's a fee there, there's fee. I'm not saying that we can't waive something, but you gotta get from A to B. You can't still stay at $100 forever. We can't, you know.
Ms. Moffett?
I probably have a lot of questions about this. When you had the fee for the $100, you had a lot of labor. I mean, as I look through this list, was this the only year that you had this, that you did all of this work, this labor?
No, this is I was requested through Heather Harper to Rocky Gomes to provide a breakdown, which we did this year, provide you a more specific breakdown of the labor and materials input that the Farmers Market Board did. And so the 24 hours at $50 an hour, it's not paying employees, it's what you would pay a landscape contractor based on overhead, and I do landscaping as
And you're at $50 an hour?
So the 24 hours was a group of us, of 5 people, that were at the park the very first day of, it was April 6th or whatever, rented an aerator and spent all day aerating the park, spreading loam and compost, seeding, and then additionally, so that's how we came to the $1,200. That's a one-day, 24 man-hour labors, man-hours at $50 an hour. So there was 5 of us, but to make it simple, so I didn't say, you know, how many people were there, so I just made it was a one day, so accounting for 24 hours, not in a day, but that man-hour calculation. And then throughout the whole season, from April through November, we put in 226 hours of weeding, hedge trimming, watering, planting, things like that. So that's, if you break it down, 226 hours over 6 months or 7 months, whatever that is, it's not that many hours. You know, it ends up being, I think, about 8 hours per week or something, which is not outrageous for maintaining a park.
What did you do the year previous? If this was 13, what did you do in 12?
We did very much the same, except for we did not aerate the park, so that 24-hour man labor day, we didn't do the aerating, and we didn't spread compost and loam. We did seed, and we did try to, manually aerate some, but we rented a pretty substantial piece of equipment and spent the entire day.
And if you hadn't done that? What if you hadn't done any of this?
So you subtract $1,200.
No, I mean, any of this that comes up to this $79.50, $7,950.
Which is what we did the year before,
And
minus the
if you didn't do
$1,200.
it, what would have happened?
We may have paid some portion of the fee, I guess. I mean, we asked for the waiver, and we were granted the waiver in 2012, and so we put in that same amount of work in 2012 that the town did not get charged for us taking care of the park.
Okay, I'll come one more time with the question.
So what am I I don't understand what I'm missing here.
Okay. If you didn't do any of this work, what would happen with the farmer's market? You didn't aerate, you didn't have maintenance, you didn't
I think
seed
that
the
goes
lawn.
back to
What would
the
happen there? What would happen at Peg Noonan Park if none of this was done?
Peg Noonan Park would probably not look nearly as good, and this board would have made a decision on the fee based on whether or not work was done. That's what would have happened.
I mean, I hope that when we did our PowerPoint presentation and you saw all those, colored photographs comparing 2008 and what the park looked like then to what it looked like in 2013. Unfortunately, we didn't show progress photographs. Maybe that would have helped in this discussion, but we did show before and after, and huge improvement visually. I mean, you've asked us to do that. That was a big premise of us doing the in-kind service, was because largely 3 years ago, the criticism was we were trampling the grass, and it was an impact. So that was we thought that was a good solution to the problem, and we felt we did demonstrate that.
You received a complaint about trampling the grass?
Yeah, that goes way back.
Well,
So-
I'm trying to get to the point of $7,950 and what Peg Noonan Park would look like for you to continue with a farmer's market there for almost $8,000. I'm trying to get to that point.
Well, it's maybe kind of moot at this point because you're completely redoing the park now. So I don't see, it doesn't really help
It
in
wasn't the purpose of the question.
Oh, okay, well, I don't know what
If
I'm
I
missing.
could, and I understand the applicant's confusion, because honestly,
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Moffett, I'm not quite sure where you're trying to go with that question.
I'm trying, okay.
No, and if you'd like to rephrase it, maybe you could help us, because I'm a little confused as well. What I would like to do, though, is remind the board of a couple of things. First of all, our fee waiver policy, we adopted June 3rd, 2013, under the section exemptions, and I will read this for the public and for the board's edification. To be eligible for exemption, the private nonprofit, which applies to the farmer's market, shall exhibit that it offers a unique public benefit at no charge to the public, or provides a service to the town residents, particularly the neediest of our residents. And then it goes on to talk about affordable housing and whatnot. So with that paragraph specifically, one of the things that I have here, and I hope you have it in your packet, is a list of the benefits that the Falmouth Farmers Market provided to us. And I'm not going to read all of these, but among other things, it does note, for example, that they've made weekly donations to the Falmouth Service Center, approximately almost 3,500 pounds of produce last year, it says, and I'm assuming that applies to
Each year.
to 2013 when you say it?
Correct.
And again, that goes to the section in our policy regarding the neediest of our residents. We all know the benefits that the service center provides, and the fact that the market actually provides all of that fresh produce is considerable. Notes also on here that the farmers market was the first Cape market to provide an EBT machine, which accepts the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, the SNAP, which is essentially food stamps, again, going to the neediest of our residents. It also accepts WIC, the Women, Infants, and Children, and senior coupons, again, addressing the issues of the neediest of our residents. They host school visits to the market, draws visitors. It notes that businesses benefit. In particular, it mentions here Osteria La Civetta offers dining specials using produce from the Falmouth Farmers Market. So that certainly provides a benefit to the town as a whole that I don't know that many other businesses provide or that many other organizations provide. The volunteer board has collaborated with the DPW, as noted, to maintain Peg Noonan Park, and I would say extensively. Let's see, promotes vendors, local food and events, helped the Falmouth Historical Society organize their farm-to-table fundraiser last year, participated in the Falmouth Public Library's program for the 2013 townwide read Animal Vegetable Miracle. And of course, market vendors and produce regular appear in WCAI, local radio station, the local food report, and Elspeth Hayes' Diary of a Localvore. Falmouth Farmers Market photographs feature the Chef's Collaborative Facebook, currently on TEDx Manhattan, Changing the Way We Eat. If you've ever listened to TED conferences, those are rather interesting. Articles featuring the market and vendors have appeared in the Falmouth Enterprise, the Bulletin, the Patch, the Cape Cod Times, Edible Cape Cod, the View, Cape Cod, and Cape Cod Life, which I think draws visitors and draws positive attention to the town as a whole. I think between the work they've done in kind, and although I understand, Mr. Murphy, what you're talking about, that last year is last year, they went over and above. And when I have folks who work for me during my day job, and when they go over and above, I try to reward them in the future, or looking to the future, rewarding them. And when someone goes over and above what I ask, I generally try to give them a raise that extends into the future in perpetuity. I'm not suggesting that the farmers market has earned an exemption in perpetuity, but I think we owe it to them that they've gone above and beyond, I think, not only with the work that they've done, but certainly with respect to our fee waiver policy, which suggests that they provide a benefit to the public, particularly to the neediest of our residents. And again, I'll reiterate my agreement with Mr. Jones's suggestion that we simply charge them the $100 fee. I don't think that there's any other organization. We can look at any of these organizations that ask for multiple weeks on town property, such as the art markets. I don't know that they've ever given this much in donations to the neediest of this community, or collaborated with other organizations with this community and provided these kind of services. So it is, quite frankly, comparing apples and oranges to say that we're opening a can of worms here, because this is a different organization. This is an organization that was originally created by the town, chartered by the town, and has fulfilled its mission, I think, to support this community and the neediest in this community. And I think I've said enough. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
I have comments.
Ms. Flynn.
Well, I've really looked at this very carefully and listened to everything over the course of a long time. And I also look at the fact that in terms of the park, there's no question, you have done you have given a lot of service to the park in terms of caring for the park itself. And I realize that's not going to be required anymore. The town has finally decided that Peg Noonan Park is a very valuable piece of land in the town, especially in downtown. And so we realized that the Performance Center was in bad shape. That has to be rebuilt. Fortunately, the sheriff's people are going to do that, so that decreases the cost a lot, which then allows those funds to be able to use for the landscaping around the park. And I think Rocky Gomez presented us with a landscaping plan a couple of weeks ago, and it's lovely. with shrubs and trees and flowering bushes and all of that. And I think the park will look very nice. And not only for you, but for everybody else who comes there. Then I carefully reviewed the policy again, and I think the chairman has already read that to be eligible, the private nonprofit shall exhibit that it offers a unique public benefit at no charge to the public, or, as Mr. Putnam reiterated, all of the number of good things you do for the community. But I also think that when you initiate a new policy, it's really important to be fair, to be really fair about it. I think to charge you the full rate would not be appropriate at all. I think the value of the services that you provide is important, and it's important to the community, and it has a great value. So what I was looking at was in terms of fairness in attempting to apply the same policy to a lot of different groups, and at the same time be fair, that I was going to recommend that we decrease the fee and exempt it to $500 rather than the $2,300 or even the half of the 11-something, but that we consider, which is almost 75%, or what, 20, 40, you would only pay about 20% of the fee, so we're actually, decreasing almost 80% of the fee, if my numbers are right. I'm not good at math, you are. But anyway, that's what I was thinking, that in recognition of the fact that, I too want to go forward and not in the past. I want to recognize with the value that you have provided to Peg Noonan Park and to the residents by doing all of this in-kind work, but now going forward, it isn't necessary, so that means the town will be picking up that because the park is being redone. That's why, not because Rocky's just the town's gonna take it over. It's managing a whole new different setting and landscaping and all of that. So my suggestion would be that we lower the fee to $500. And you can discuss that.
Mr. Murphy's concern about being fair and having this fee be $100 compared to the $2,300 it should be had convinced me that I would feel more comfortable with your recommendation than my original motion.
Well, I think I have a rationale for it. I didn't just pick the number out of a hat. I looked at, they do provide a service, but yet they're still a nonprofit, and they charge. You do charge for what you sell. So we have to take that into consideration, because we're going to apply that to other people. So I think we have to be very fair when we look at how we apply this policy to various nonprofit groups. There are some nonprofit groups that don't charge anything. Maybe they have giveaways, or I don't want to belabor this, but that's...
Well, before we go any further, we've got two competing ideas here on the table.
I've got a third, so...
Okay, well, exactly. Is there anyone here in the public who'd like to offer some feedback on this situation? Maybe you can help guide the board. Mr. Finneran, and then Mr. McNamara.
Mark Finneran, Precinct 6, candidate for Board of Selectmen. In talking with the guys, it's the story. In talking with the guys that work for the town, it's my understanding, and I don't know that this is correct, but the irrigation system that they're putting in, they told me that the guy putting in the irrigation system was told that he could not use the town water, that they had to drill a well. We're sitting here talking about $1,000 or something, and to drill a well to feed that is going to cost a lot more than $1,000 or $2,000, and it's going to double the amount of labor.
Mr. Finneran, before we speculate, let's wait for the town manager to report back to the board as he said he would. Could you please focus on the question of the fee, please? The board has multiple opinions here, and like I said, I'd like to get public feedback.
Well, that's what I wanted. I wanted the answer to that question. I mean,
I don't think we have the
fact
answer tonight to that question, so.
Spending that kind of money, I mean, it kind of makes, the smaller amount a moot point in my mind. But no one has that information?
At this time, no, not that I know of.
I indicated I'd bring back some information on the board.
But your point is taken. Thank you, sir. Mr. McNamara?
Thank you, Matt McNamara. Just a question on fairness. If you look back at your policy, fairly new, we work through policies. There are two parts. There's a waiver and there's an exemption. And if you want to raise the issue of fairness, look at how that applies to everyone in town. Just Main Street, the Village Association has a complete exemption from a fee, not a waiver, an exemption. They charge people who, you look at me puzzled.
No, I don't.
It was all of the village associations, neighborhood associations that received that automatic exemption. And yet they charge for, or vendors charge. As I listened through all of the nights that you discussed that new policy, I was under the impression when you talked about charging a fee, it was almost like an admission fee. Farmers Market doesn't charge an admission fee for their vendors to that, for people to buy their vegetables or produce, et cetera. It's free. The vendors do charge. But I think in terms of fairness, anyone who doesn't get what they want is going to claim it's unfair. I think you have to look at it in terms, I think as you did, Mr. Chairman, what the benefit, balance out the benefit to this community. And over the years that we've had this discussion, those of us who have been in favor of the farmers market have said that it is a cultural event. It's a way of life. It's something that's important to the community. Way and above what the fees are that you charge, it's the intangible that we get back from this. If I've been in the same room, I'm not even sure the farmers market is going to be at Peg Noonan Park another year. So I don't understand why, to the farmers market, $2,300 is a lot of money. $500, quite frankly, is a lot of money. $100 last year and this year isn't going to make a major difference in what happens with the town, what happens with Rocky Gomes' budget, whether or not there is a well put in irrigation. These folks have busted themselves for the benefit of the town. These people that come every night don't get paid. There is a manager that gets, she has to supplement for $50 an hour to do the landscaping work, to supplement what she's doing for the benefit of the farmers market. But if you look at fairness, you have to look at each individual, but remember that inherently in the policy that you have, it is not fair across the board. So I think Mr. Jones should not back off his original motion. $100 is certainly enough for the farmers market to pay.
Anyone else? In the back?
Hello, my name is Basha Koszczynska, and I really enjoy going to the farmers market. I think it's really benefited my life here, and I just want to take a special moment to thank Kate for all the hard work you do. I know that you put in so many hours, and it means a lot. I hope she doesn't quit. It really takes a strong person to come and always be at the end of the agenda and to be patient, to go through the process. Food is so important. We eat it 5 times a day. I'm sorry. I hate that I can't always bike down the street and get something that was grown down the street. Any opportunity that we can do that and help people do that is a way that we can help people be healthy. Organic food is very important. And I just want to thank these good people for doing the good work they do. They are not for profit. This is not about money. This is not about how the park looks. This is about people helping people be healthy. And $2,300, $500, it's just money. That's not what's important. What's important is that people can help other people be healthy, and the farmers market does that. It builds community, so it makes you healthy in that way too. It builds social interaction. Some of my closest friends that I've made at the farmers market. Some of the best meals I've cooked here, I've cooked with food from the farmers market. So I just urge you to please consider those things as well, not just competition between one organization and another one, or the state of the park. I mean, parks are to be used, and I think that's all I have to say, but thanks again, Kate, and to the board, and to everyone who puts in the work it takes to run a farmer's market.
Anyone else? Okay.
Good evening, Derek Bowser, Falmouth Farmers Market Board. I just wanted to answer a question which I believe Ms. Moffett was putting towards Kate earlier, in terms of what would happen if the market did not participate in the stewardship of the park last year. I believe that the town would have had to come up with the money to pay for that, and so it was an in-kind gesture financially in both ends, labor, monetary. So I just, that's, I think, what you were trying to ask, and I just thought I would try to answer in my understanding of what it is. I also disagree with your interpretation in that the park's appearance is very important to the town, to everyone that uses it, and I think that the farmers market has been a really good steward in partnering with the town to make it the best that it can be. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, Christina Raleigh, Precinct 1. I also want to thank you all for all of the work that you have done. I also want to thank the Board of Selectmen for being so concerned, all of your concerns about all of this. I think what we are going through here, what we are as a town trying to achieve is a transition, that we are all in a transition to an economy and also a way of living that we must actually transition to as we deal with climate change, as we try to transition away from food that has been raised with chemicals and has been treated with pesticides and is unsafe for us. And the same with transitioning to many other things in the town, economically speaking, that do not remain in our town, do not build on building a community, but rather takes all of the food and all of the money out of the community. This is the Falmouth Farmers Market is an organization which is led by people who donate their time and energy so that people are educated, so that people who are underserved in many ways in our town will learn the benefits of good food and learn it in an atmosphere which says that this town really is supporting a whole sustainability issue. And so I would say that while many other towns are asking their farmers to come in, are opening up this town is, has been in the leadership on this until just recently. And I don't entirely understand it, but if we step back a little bit and we think about this in the longer term, I'm not saying the longer term at Peg Noonan necessarily, but I'm saying that right now we have a wonderful market. It was established years ago, and it has stayed with a certain level, a certain number of growers coming into the market. The numbers have not changed all that much over the years. Maybe a few more, sometimes a few less. But all of these people, the growers themselves, this is a work of love. And it shows in every time you come into the market. It shows that there is so much love in that market. Love of good food, love of being in a place that is safe, that people can just talk together and smile together. And, it is one of those things that, one of those places, one of those one-time-a-week events that everybody who goes there comes away feeling better and being greeted with smiles. And you're doing something that is so natural to go and to look at these, when you go into any other type of market, it's not the same. You don't get the same feeling. This is something that's very tangible. People know exactly where their food is coming from, and they can hold it in their hands. They can ask questions like, I've heard kids say, or adults come in and say, well, I've never seen this vegetable before. It was really grown here. Oh, how do you grow it? Does it grow on a tree? Is it in the ground? Where does it grow? And it is part of a whole education about, something that we at once in our society, in our culture, knew how to grow food and where it comes from and what it means. And without being a, quote, college, you're getting college level information when you come there and when you go away. How many experiences can that be? How many times in a day can we count? So I would just like to say, I think that to debate this issue about what is it, 500, 2,500, whatever it is, it just makes so much sense. It just makes so much sense to leave it $100, fine. This is 1 year. It may not be there next year. This may be the last year it is in Peg Noonan Park. Basta! $100. Have some fun, and just and relax and help get into that culture that it brings to the town, and hope that in the future that wherever the market is, that it is as lovely, as central, as beautiful, as it has been over the last years. So once again, thank you for listening, and I really look forward to going to the market this summer.
Anyone else? Last call, folks. All right, Mr. Jones?
Can I just clarify with Kate on the expenses? The way I read this is there was a $100 fee, plus you had to buy $1,100 worth of stuff that you put into the park. And so if we reduced it to $500 this year, that would be a reduction of $700 the expense you would have to use the park. It cost you $1,200 last year because $100 for the fee, and you had to rent a aerator, you bought 10 yards of compost, 100 pounds of lime, 80 pounds of grass seed. That was not in kind, it was $1,100 you actually had to take out of your funds to pay, and $100 you had to pay in the fee. So if we did 500, it actually would be a reduction of cost of $700.
You still don't want to pay me for my labor? What is the problem?
Or if we charged them half, it would still be the same amount of money that it cost them.
Okay,
I'm going to make a motion
okay.
that we exempt the fee of the farmer's market to the amount of $500 for the season.
She's suggesting we exempt it,
To
charging
the-
them for $500.
To the amount, we exempt the fee down to the amount of $500.
Okay. Does anybody want to second that for discussion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any questions or comments on that? Ms. Moffett?
If you were charging the regular fee, as you do everyone else in town, what would it cost for farmer's market to be there twice a week through all the weeks in the summer?
Twice
No,
a week?
once a week.
They're asking
Once
for
a week?
once a week. It's $2,300.
$2,300.
It would be $2,300.
It's 23 weeks, yes,
And we're
$100.
going from 2,300 to 500.
That's the motion.
And just on a side note, there's roughly 20 vendors there. $100 a week is $5 per vendor. Just put it down in, well, you made some great statements, Mr. Chairman, but in the policy, the fee waiver, it says no charge. It's not the giving the stuff away. These vendors are bringing stuff here. I wish we had more Falmouth vendors. That's why I try to come up with a policy that would help the Falmouth farmers come there and sell their wares. But these folks, they have love, I agree. It's a work of love, a labor of love, but they're still making a living there, and they're still they're making a living there, the folks that are selling their wares there. That's how they make their living. So.
Please. Trying to keep things under control here. I know emotions are starting to run a little high. Any other questions or comments from the board? I'm going to offer a couple more things. First of all, Mr. Murphy, it is a benefit at no charge or provides a service to the town residents, particularly the neediest of our residents. And I think that's been very well itemized and identified by the farmers market. The other thing I'd like to point out, the original $2,300 that we would have charged was 20% of the farmers market's budget, based on the 2013 profit and loss statement they provided to us. It would be the $1,100 that was suggested we reduce it down to would have been 10% of their budget. $500 is still 5% of their budget. And again, considering this is an organization, first of all, chartered by the town, a nonprofit organization, and all of the benefits they provide to the town, and I challenge any member of this board or any member of the public to show me another nonprofit that does so much for this for this community that asks for the use of town property, because quite frankly, there isn't one. The artists markets that come out here are for-profit ventures that do nothing more than sell wares. They do not provide the kind of community input and feedback, provide nutritional supplements for this community the way this market does. There is not another organization that has ever come to this town and asked for use of our public property that has provided this much in the way of benefits to this community, at least not that they've itemized. And most of these organizations that come to the community are usually for-profit ventures. And while I understand that the farmers are making money, the reality is being a farmer in Massachusetts is probably one of the most difficult jobs that I can imagine, when you consider that the most profitable farms in this country are usually the mega farms in the Midwest that rely on mass production and large parcels of land in order to be profitable.
Government subsidies.
And government subsidies. You consider the farmers in the town of Falmouth are barely eking out a living, and we're going to ask them to spend, even if it's just another $5 a week. Quite frankly, I'm surprised that some of them can even exist. And regardless of who we load that money onto, it's money that they have to pay out of their pocket, and quite frankly, for all of the benefits that this market provides to the community, and I'll go right back to the fact, almost 3,500 pounds of produce provided to the Falmouth Service Center. That's a dollar figure that I can't even imagine, and that is to the neediest of our community.
You've gone through all of this, Mr. Chairman, just.
I have, and maybe I'm beating a dead horse here, but I'll tell you something.
How much is your membership, Kate?
Our membership?
Yep.
Well, we don't have a membership, but to be a vendor, you mean?
It says memberships. Oh, that's expenses. All right, sorry. I was hoping there was a way that we can say, if the audience out there wants to help you by paying a $20 membership.
All right.
No, we pay membership.
We have a motion, we have a second, and I hear calls for the vote. So all those in favor of the motion, $500 for the year.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. All right. So the motion does not carry. I'll make a motion that we charge $100 as we did last year. Does anyone want to second the motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Nope.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? And the motion does not carry. All right, we're at an impasse, folks.
So there is no fee waiver.
Going for 300?
Split the difference, 300? I'll make the motion, 300.
There's just,
Second.
there's no fee waiver.
There's a motion and a second, $300. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries 3-2. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. All right, next item on our agenda, adopt an order of taking and authorize the layout of Elizabeth Jean Drive.
This is going to take just as long, isn't it?
We have a recommended motion.
Any of that?
I move to vote to lay out Elizabeth Jean Drive as a public way in accordance with the taking plan submitted to this meeting and to adopt an estimate of $217,596 to be divided among 22 abutters to the betterment. The total cost of the improvements shall not exceed the cost estimated. That is the motion.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Unanimous. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is to review the town manager's contract. We've been advised by town council that we could enter into executive session for the purpose of reviewing the contract, if the board so desires.
And this is in response to the email we received today with the emendations?
Well, my suggestion is, I mean, I know you only received it today, but I would think that if you want to discuss any part of it, then we would have to go into executive session. If you don't want to discuss it, then you don't, but if you have, if there is a discussion or questions, we have to go into executive session, because it is contract negotiations, and that's exempt.
I would
mean,
feel
that's-
comfortable approving it the way we received it.
I actually have not had an opportunity to review it, so I'd like at least some opportunity to.
Then I think we should not do that tonight.
Okay.
I have just one word that I'd like changed in the whole thing, so I don't know who I would.
Perhaps discuss with Ms. Flynn, considering you worked with town council or with,
No, I worked with Julia.
oh, okay, all right,
Sort of, we worked together.
all right. So perhaps Mr. Murphy, check in with Ms. Flynn and
Yeah.
review that.
So do you want to put it off for another? till
Well,
the
he
next
hasn't
meeting?
even looked at it, so he
Yeah,
doesn't
I
want to
haven't had a
vote it
chance to
tonight.
look
anyway.
at it, so.
It would be 2 weeks.
Well, then I would move that we, in the meantime, each one review it, and then that we put it on our agenda for 2 weeks on the 28th, but that it go on as an executive session. So we have an opportunity to discuss it.
Or we could enter into executive session now if you'd like and run through it real
We
quick.
could and get it over with, and then we could vote it the next week.
You can read through it.
Either that, or we could come
Well,
back out if you wanted.
What?
or Either that, or we could come back out of executive session and vote it this
Yeah, we
evening.
could do that, too. All right, I'll move that we go into executive session for the purposes of contract negotiations with the town manager and
Return
not
to-
return to open.
No,
And to return to open
Do we
session.
have any other business just for people who want to?
I would suggest not returning to open session this
Well,
evening.
pardon me, but wouldn't we want, if we go
Yeah,
through
we
them
might vote
tonight,
it
we could vote it in
tonight, and that
in
would be
open
end it.
session. If we're gonna go
Potentially.
through it, we could just vote it in open session. If you're not comfortable with it by the time we go through it real quickly,
Then we can take
then
it
we would
over.
hold it over.
Yeah, and we could still end the executive session.
I guess my only objection is that if we're going to enter into executive session, I want to give folks a clear understanding that there's going to be some reason for them to stay tuned in. I'm always a little leery of conducting these sorts of discussions late in the evening, and folks don't have the there's, I guess, a hint of that we're doing it at the late hour in order to hide things.
Is there really
No,
a rush
we're
not to
not.
do this?
It's under the general laws. We have to discuss this in executive session.
I understand.
We can't take
I
it up
just-
in open
I-
session.
I
Is
would
there
not
any
be-
rush not to do this in 2 weeks?
We can do it on the 28th.
Did we do that, executive 28th, and then
Yes.
on open
We could
session
do it
voted?
all
We
under
could do that all
executive
then.
session and vote it 2 weeks from tonight.
I would just want to, my concern here is I would want to vote this in public session earlier in the evening, so it's out in the open and folks have no question about what we're doing.
It's fine with me, I don't, either way.
Okay.
You
I
want to go to
withdraw
the
my
executive
motion.
session part tonight, though?
Hmm?
You want to do the executive session part tonight, so they have the language, and then we can come back?
And do the whole thing? We could do that, because it won't take much. It won't take much time.
Okay.
To,
I would still advise that we do it on the 28th, both executive and open session. I think you're right, it won't take much time, but
no. Unless you have a lot you want to talk about.
Nope, I only have one thing.
All right, so if there's no inclination, we'll just move on? Okay. All right.
But then I withdraw my motion.
All right, then that brings us to the end of the agenda. Individual reports, any questions about the town manager's report?
No,
Or do we want to just call it a night?
let's call it a night. Move to adjourn.
There we go. Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Founder Abraham Penn taught a valuable lesson that has been part of a tradition since 1919 when he said, "I'd rather make a friend than make a sale." For more than 90 years, Puritan has been making friends as a unique family-owned company right here in Cape Cod. At Puritan Cape Cod on 199 Main Street, as well as Chatham, Mashpee, and Hyannis, you'll find the latest in men's and women's clothing, as well as ski and tennis equipment, and much more. Puritan Cape Cod, 548-0116, or PuritanCapeCod.com.
Internet services provided by Cape.com Incorporated. Established in 1994, Cape.com is the only locally owned and operated internet service provider on Cape Cod. Our specialties include e-commerce applications and design, wide area networking services, and high-speed DSL internet access throughout eastern Massachusetts. Cape.com continues to lead the way with cutting-edge applications, superior networking services, and quality customer support. For more information, visit us at www.cape.com or call us at 539-9500.